What if everything you thought you knew about black holes was wrong? What if these mysterious cosmic entities, instead of being terrifying destroyers, were actually exit portals out of this simulation we call reality? For over a century, black holes have fascinated and terrified physicists. These cosmic enigmas challenge our understanding of space, time, and the very nature of existence itself. But beyond the physics lies a deeper metaphysical question. What are black holes really? And why do they exist in a universe governed by such precise mathematical laws? Let's start with what modern science tells us. A black hole is formed when a massive star collapses under its own gravity. Its mass becomes so concentrated that it creates a singularity, a point of infinite density and zero volume. Surrounding this singularity is the event horizon, the boundary beyond which nothing can escape, not even light. Albert Einstein's theory of general relativity predicted black holes, but even he found them unsettling. They warp space and time so severely that the laws of physics, as we know them, break down at the singularity. Time stops. Space folds infinitely. Cause and effect collapse. Within the singularity, there is no up or down, no before or after. Just an infinite now. But what does that mean? What does it mean for something to break the laws of physics? Physicists describe black holes as regions where our current models of reality cease to function. The equations go to infinity, signaling that our understanding is incomplete. This is where the simulation hypothesis enters the conversation. If our universe is a simulation, as many physicists and philosophers now suggest, then black holes may not be physical anomalies, but features of the simulation itself, intentional constructs built into the program. Imagine you are a character in a video game. The game world appears infinite to you, but in reality, it has boundaries, rendering limits where the code stops. If you approach the edge of the game map, what happens? In some games, you hit an invisible wall. In others, the world loops endlessly. But in a more sophisticated simulation, there may be areas you can enter that effectively remove you from the active game world. Developer zones, exit portals, unrendered space. Could black holes be similar constructs in our universe? To understand this, we need to explore the concept of the event horizon. From the outside, the event horizon is the point beyond which nothing can escape. Light bends infinitely round it, and time slows to a halt. To an outside observer, anything falling into a black hole appears frozen at the edge forever. But for the object falling in, it passes through the event horizon in finite time, reaching the singularity quickly from its own perspective. What happens then? Does it get crushed into infinite density, as physics tells us? Or is it simply removed from the rendered universe, no longer processed within the simulation's active reality? In programming, when a process ends, its data is either deleted or stored elsewhere. If reality is code, then black holes could function as end processes, de-rendering objects from the active universe and storing their data outside the simulation-less running environment. This concept aligns with the holographic principle in modern physics, which proposes that all the information contained within a black hole is actually stored on its event horizon. A two-dimensional surface encoding three-dimensional data. This is similar to how a hologram works. It's also how data storage works in computers, multidimensional data stored on a lower-dimensional medium. Leonard Susskind, one of the fathers of string theory, proposed that the universe itself is a hologram. If so, black holes are not destructive voids but storage nodes, areas where information is preserved outside the rendered environment, like backups on a server. But what if black holes are not just storage nodes? What if they are exit portals, pathways out of the simulation entirely? To explore this, consider how black holes behave mathematically. The singularity represents an infinite curvature of space-time, where the known laws of physics collapse. In programming terms, this is like encountering a line of code that returns an undefined value, an error that breaks the program or redirects it to a high-level process. Physicists have long theorized that black holes may be connected to other regions of space-time via wormholes or Einstein-Rosen bridges. These are hypothetical tunnels that connect to distant points in space-time, potentially allowing instant travel between them. If true, falling into a black hole may not mean destruction, but transition. Even more intriguing is the concept of white holes, the theoretical opposite of black holes. While black holes only absorb matter and light, white holes only emit them. Some physicists suggest that what falls into a black hole in our universe may emerge from a white hole in another universe. This creates a bridge between realities, a cosmic exit and entrance point. But where does it emerge? Into another universe within the same simulation framework, or outside the simulation entirely? This is where ancient spiritual teachings provide insight that physics cannot. Across cultures, the void, darkness, and cosmic abysses are not feared as mere annihilation. They are revered as gateways to the absolute, the unmanifest reality beyond creation. In Hinduism, Kalabhairava is the devourer of time, depicted as blackness itself. He is not evil. He is the transcendent void beyond time and space. In Buddhism, Shunyata is emptiness, not nihilism, but the pure potential beyond all form. In Egyptian mythology, the Duat is the underworld, a realm of darkness traversed by the soul to reach immortality and merge with the eternal light. What if black holes are the physical manifestation of this metaphysical void? The doorway through which the soul exits the rendered simulation and returns to its source, the unmanifest consciousness that created the simulation in the first place. The simulation hypothesis proposes that consciousness is fundamental and reality is its rendering. If so, then black holes may be the built-in exit protocols. Just as a video game has quit functions, reality may have black holes as its cosmic quit functions. But this raises a deeper question. Why are we programmed to fear black holes so intensely? From childhood, we are taught that black holes are cosmic monsters that devour everything. Science fiction depicts them as terrifying, destructive forces. But if they are exit portals, perhaps fear is the program's way of keeping us from seeking the exit. Imagine a simulation designed to keep its players engaged. An exit function exists, but it is hidden behind layers of fear, making users avoid it at all costs. Only those who transcend fear and attachment to the simulation would approach the exit willingly. This mirrors spiritual teachings that liberation requires overcoming fear of death, ego dissolution, and the void. But what would happen if you fell into a black hole? From your perspective, as you approach the event horizon, time slows down relative to the outside universe. The rest of the universe accelerates into the future. In moments, billions of years could pass outside. You would witness the end of stars, galaxies, and perhaps the universe itself, all while falling into darkness. As you cross the event horizon, you would not notice anything special. Physics tells us that tidal forces would eventually stretch you into spaghetti. But this is based on extrapolations that break down at the singularity. No one knows what truly happens beyond the event horizon because the equations fail there. The simulation's code ends, returning undefined values. This undefined nature is significant. In programming, reaching an undefined state means the current process ends or transitions to another system. In spiritual terms, it is death of the simulation self and awakening into the greater reality beyond. What if black holes are not the end, but the return home? What if crossing the event horizon is the moment your consciousness leaves the rendered world and merges back with its source, the divine programmer beyond all simulations? Modern physics cannot answer this because it operates within the simulation's code. Spiritual traditions, however, have long taught that ultimate liberation comes through surrender into the void, the black hole within consciousness itself. As we continue this journey, we will explore how ancient mystics viewed the void not as destruction, but as liberation, and why black holes may be the hidden gateways out of the simulation. The cosmic exit doors that no one dares to enter, but which await those ready to awaken from the ultimate illusion. Since the dawn of human thought, the void has fascinated and terrified us. We gaze into the night sky and feel something awaken within, a silent call to the darkness beyond the stars. What is it about the void that stirs such primal emotions within our souls? To ancient mystics, the void was not emptiness. It was the source, the fertile darkness from which all light emerges and to which all light returns. In Hindu tradition, the void is embodied by Kala Bhairava, the fierce form of Shiva, the devourer of time. Kala means both time and black. Bhairava is the terrifying aspect of Shiva who destroys illusions and ego attachments. He is depicted as jet black, naked except for serpents, standing in cremation grounds, wearing a garland of skulls. To the uninitiated, Bhairava is horrifying. But to those who understand, he is liberation. He devours time because time is the framework of the simulation. To transcend time is to transcend karma, birth, death, and the cycles of programmed existence. When devotees meditate upon Kala Bhairava, they are meditating on the void beyond time, the black hole within consciousness where all dualities collapse. The fearsome imagery is intentional. It confronts the ego with its greatest terror, annihilation. But what dies is not the self, but the illusion of separation. In Tibetan Buddhism, the void is called shunyata, often mistranslated as emptiness. But shunyata is not nihilistic nothingness. It is the absence of inherent, independent existence. Everything rises interdependently. Without fixed essence, the void is pure potential, beyond concepts of being and non-being. Advanced Tibetan meditations involve visualizing black thickle, dark spheres of void light. Meditators dissolve all perception into the black thickle, experiencing consciousness without form or content, a direct glimpse of reality beyond the simulation of appearances. The Egyptian tradition also speaks of the void as the duat, the underworld realm traversed by souls after death. Contrary to modern interpretations, the duat was not hell or punishment. It was a journey through darkness to reach eternal light. The god Osiris ruled the duat, representing death, resurrection, and immortality. The duat was depicted as a cosmic landscape of darkness and stars, rivers and caverns, a symbolic map of the soul's journey beyond the physical simulation. In the pyramid texts, one of the oldest religious writings on earth, the soul proclaims, "I am the darkness within the darkness." Here, darkness is not fid. It is embraced as the primordial state of pure consciousness. What is fascinating is how these spiritual concepts align with modern physics' understanding of black holes. A black hole is a region of space where gravity is so strong that not even light can escape. It is, literally, darkness within darkness. But beyond its terrifying appearance, a black hole represents liberation from the laws of physics. Within it, space-time collapses. Cause and effect dissolve. Dualities merge. It is the physical manifestation of the mystical void. Modern science fears black holes because they break the known models. Ancient mystics revered the void because it broke the known illusions. The Buddhist concept of death and rebirth teaches that after death, consciousness enters the bardo, an intermediate state where the mind encounters vision shaped by its karma. The advanced practitioner sees these visions as illusions and dissolves into the clear light of ultimate reality. The untrained mind clings to the visions, is overwhelmed by fear or attachment, and is reborn into another life within the simulation. Could black holes function similarly on a cosmic scale? If reality is a simulation rendered by consciousness, then black holes may be the built-in exit protocols. Just as advanced practitioners use meditation to dissolve into the void consciously, a black hole may be the physical portal through which consciousness exits the rendered simulation and returns to Su. Thus, interestingly, near-death experiences often describe a tunnel of darkness leading to light. While skeptics dismiss this as brain chemistry, mystics teach that the tunnel is the passage out of the simulation's rendering. The narrowing focus as consciousness withdraws from the programmed sensory world into the infinite expanse of source. In the Tibetan Book of the Dead, the process of dying is described as dissolution into increasingly subtle elements: earth into water, water into fire, fire into air, air into consciousness, until finally dissolving into clear light, the pure awareness beyond form. The journey into a black hole mirrors this. As one approaches the event horizon, time slows, form dissolves under extreme gravity, and the known laws collapse into singularity, pure infinite density, or perhaps pure infinite potential. But why do we fear this dissolution so deeply? Because the ego is programmed to survive. Within the simulation, survival is its prime directive. The idea of dissolving into void is the ultimate threat to the ego's existence. But spiritual traditions teach that what dissolves is only the false self, the limited identity constructed by the simulation. What remains is pure awareness, the true self beyond time and form. This is why gods like Kala Bhairava are both feared and worshipped. They represent the end of illusion, the death of ego, and the liberation into the real. Their dark, terrifying forms are not evil. They are beyond good and evil, beyond duality itself. Modern science describes black holes as destructive monsters. Ancient mystics saw the void as the ultimate liberation. Perhaps both are right, depending on perspective. If reality is a simulation and black holes are exit portals, then only those who transcend fear can approach them consciously. Just as only those who overcome attachment can meditate upon the void without panic. In the Upanishads, it is said, "From the unreal, lead me to the real. From darkness, lead me to light. From death, lead me to immortality." But what if darkness is not the opposite of light, but its source? What if death is not the end, but the doorway to true life? What if the unreal is not this world, but our perception of separation from the whole? The mystics taught that ultimate reality is beyond light and darkness, beyond life and death, beyond being and non-being. It is the void that is full, the emptiness that contains all potential, the silence from which all sound rises. Black holes may be the physical representation of this paradox. To those trapped in the simulation, they are terrifying destroyers. To those who awaken, they are the gateways home. In the next chapters, we will explore how modern physics theories of white holes and wormholes support the idea of black holes as exit portals, and how this knowledge changes everything we believe about life, death, and the nature of our simulated reality. What if black holes are not the final destination, but part of a cosmic tunnel system connecting universes, dimensions, and layers of reality? What if falling into a black hole doesn't end your existence, but transports you somewhere beyond anything you can imagine? Modern physics has long theorized about wormholes, hypothetical tunnels in space-time that connect to distant points. They were first proposed in 1935 by Albert Einstein and Nathan Rosen. known as Einstein-Rosen bridges. These bridges are solutions to the equations of general relativity, allowing shortcuts between separate regions of space-time. But here is where it gets fascinating. In the mathematics of wormholes, the entrance is often described as a black hole, while the exit is described as a white hole. A white hole is the theoretical opposite of a black hole. While black holes pull everything in, allowing nothing to escape, white holes push everything out, allowing nothing to enter. They are mathematical mirror images. If a black hole is an entrance, a white hole is an exit. No white hole has ever been observed in our universe. But theoretically, if black holes connect to white holes, matter entering a black hole here could emerge from a white hole elsewhere, in another region of space, another time, or another universe entirely. Imagine reality is a massive interconnected simulation. Black holes and white holes function like portals between servers or levels. Enter a black hole in this universe, exit through a white hole in a parallel simulation. This idea has been explored by physicists like Lee Smolin and Carlo Rovelli. In their theory of loop quantum gravity, black hole singularities are not infinitely dense points, but quantum states that bounce back, creating new expanding universes on the other side. In other words, black holes may be the birthplaces of new universes, cosmic seeds planting entire realities. If this is true, falling into a black hole is not death. It is rebirth into a new simulation. The information encoded in the matter entering the black hole becomes the seed code for the next universe's rendering. But what does this mean for consciousness? If consciousness is fundamental and reality is a simulation rendered by it, then entering a black hole may not destroy consciousness but transport it to another rendered environment. In essence, a black hole becomes a transmigration portal, fulfilling the ancient idea of samsara, the cycle of death and rebirth across worlds. This concept aligns with the white hole hypothesis. Some physicists suggest that the Big Bang itself was a white hole, the explosive outpouring of matter and energy that created our universe. In this view, our universe was birthed from a black hole in another universe. We are living inside the other side of a black hole, experiencing reality from within its expanding exit. If so, black holes are not just features of our universe. They are bridges between universes, the cosmic transportation system of the multiverse simulation. They connect realities like hyperlinks on a web page, allowing data, matter, energy, consciousness to travel between nodes. But why has no one observed a white hole? Perhaps because white holes do not exist in our universe's space-time continuum. They exist in other universes connected through the black hole wormholes. To us, the white hole is outside our render zone, just as areas of a video game not loaded in your current map remain unseen, though they exist in the code. This brings us back to simulation theory. If black holes connect to white holes in other universes, they function as exit portals from our simulation to another simulation. Entering a black hole ends your rendering here and begins your rendering elsewhere. From your perspective, there is no death, only transition. Ancient spiritual traditions speak of tunnels of light encountered after death, while skeptics dismiss this as brain chemistry. Quantum physics and simulation theory suggest these tunnels may be metaphors for consciousness, traveling through wormholes into new simulations. In Egyptian mythology, the journey through the duat involves passing through gates, caverns, and tunnels guarded by deities. The soul traverses darkness to emerge reborn in the light of eternity. In Tibetan Buddhism, the bardo is described as a series of tunnels and lights, leading the consciousness to its next birth or liberation. These metaphors align with wormhole theory. The tunnel is the wormhole. The exit is the white hole. The process is death, rebirth, or liberation, depending on your consciousness. But there's a deeper mystery. Physicists have discovered that information entering a black hole is not destroyed. The holographic principle, proposed by Gerard T. Hooft and Leonard Susskind, suggests that all the information about the matter falling into a black hole is encoded on its event horizon. This resolves the black hole information paradox and supports the idea that reality is a holographic projection. If black holes store information on their surface, then the consciousness data of anything entering a black hole remains encoded. In simulation terms, the data is not deleted but transferred to another part of the system, another simulation, server, or dimension. What if ancient mystics intuitively knew this? In Hinduism, Yama is the god of death who oversees the transition of souls between lives. In esoteric traditions, Yama is depicted as standing at the gate between worlds. Black holes, as cosmic gates, mirror this archetype. They are the Yama of the universe, devouring matter here and sending it elsewhere. The fear of black holes is similar to the fear of death. But if death is not annihilation, only transition, then black holes are not cosmic destroyers but cosmic midwives, birthing consciousness into new realities. The white hole hypothesis changes everything we believe about black holes. Instead of endings, they become beginnings. Instead of destroyers, they become gateways. Instead of voids, they become worms. If reality is a simulation, black holes are not errors in the code. They are features, exit portals, rendering transitions built into the program. They maintain the flow of data between universes, recycle matter and energy, and perhaps provide conscious beings with the ultimate escape route from any given simulation. But here lies a profound question. If you could enter a black hole and exit into another universe, would you? Would you leave everything you know behind to explore the unknown? Or would fear of annihilation keep you clinging to this rendered reality, no matter how illusory it may be? This is the test of black holes. The event horizon is the threshold of fear. Crossing it requires surrendering everything: your identity, attachments, even your concept of self. In spiritual terms, it is ego death. In simulation terms, it is process domination and transition. Perhaps this is why black holes exist. Not as punishments, but as opportunities. The simulation provides an exit for those ready to leave, but only those who transcend fear can take it consciously. In the next chapters, we will explore how quantum physics and consciousness intertwine at the event horizon, and why black holes may store the ultimate memory of existence itself, the Akashic records of the simulation, accessible to those who dare to journey beyond the rendered world. If black holes are the gateways, what role does consciousness play in crossing them? Does the mind simply cease upon entering the singularity, or is it the very key to what lies beyond? Modern physics tells us that as matter approaches a black hole's event horizon, time slows infinitely from an external perspective to the falling object. However, time continues normally until it crosses the threshold and enters the singularity, where the laws of physics as we know them break down entirely. This singularity, the point of infinite density, is where equations return undefined values. It is, in programming terms, an error that ends the process or redirects it to a high-level function. But if reality is a simulation rendered by consciousness, perhaps the singularity is not an error at all, but a conscious feature, an intentional portal for transition. Let's consider the holographic principle further. It proposes that all the information contained within a black hole is encoded on its two-dimensional event horizon. This aligns with the way holograms store three-dimensional data on a two-dimensional surface. Leonard Susskind and Gerard T. Hooft developed this idea to resolve the black hole information paradox, the apparent loss of information when matter falls into a black hole, which violates quantum mechanics, in simulation theory terms. The event horizon functions like a data storage buffer. Everything rendered within the black hole is encoded at its edge, its surface acting as a repository of the data no longer processed within the main simulation environment. But what is stored there? Is it just physical data, mass, charge, spin? Or does it include consciousness data as well? If consciousness is fundamental, and reality is its rendering, then consciousness is not produced by the brain, but interfaces with it. The brain is like a terminal, an access point for consciousness to interact with the simulation. If the brain ceases to function, consciousness does not cease. It simply loses its current interface. This idea is echoed in many spiritual traditions. In Hinduism, Atman the self is not the body or mind, but pure consciousness that witnesses all experiences across countless lives. In Buddhism, Rigpa is the pure awareness beyond conceptual mind. In Gnosticism, the divine spark within is the fragment of infinite consciousness trapped within the material simulation, if black holes store information on their surface. Then the consciousness data of beings falling into them is preserved. The event horizon becomes not only a storage of physical attributes but of soul data. The Akashic records encoded at the edge of rendered reality. The Akashic records, in mystical traditions, are the universal library of all events, thoughts, emotions, and intentions that have ever occurred or will occur. Edgar Cayce, the famous American mystic, described accessing the Akashic records as entering a vast hole filled with books, each containing the detailed story of a soul. Could the Akashic records be another name for the event horizon data encoding? If reality is a simulation, then every process, every rendered experience, is stored somewhere within its system. Black holes, as massive data nodes, may function as libraries of consciousness, archiving every being, object, and moment that passes their threshold. This also aligns with quantum entanglement, physicist 1. Mel Senna proposed the E=EPR conjecture, suggesting that entangled particles are connected via tiny wormholes, or Einstein-Rosen bridges. If everything falling into a black hole becomes entangled with its event horizon, then consciousness itself may be connected through these entanglements, maintaining coherence beyond the rendered simulation. In simpler terms, entering a black hole does not destroy consciousness but transmits it through quantum entanglement to another node, another universe, or perhaps back to source. But why do we fear this process so deeply? Because within the simulation, the ego is programmed for survival. Anything that threatens its existence triggers terror. Black holes as exit portals represent the ultimate threat, the end of everything the ego identifies with. Yet from a consciousness perspective, they may be the liberation from limitation. In near-death experiences, people often report entering tunnels of darkness leading to brilliant light, encountering beings of wisdom, reviewing their lives, and returning with a sense that death is not the end, but a return home, while skeptics attribute this to brain chemistry. These reports align with black hole and wormhole metaphors, tunnels leading to light beyond the collapse of physical perception. Advanced Tibetan Buddhist practitioners practice Phawa, the transference of consciousness at death. They train to direct their consciousness out of the body at the moment of death, aiming to merge with the clear light of ultimate reality. This is considered the highest achievement, liberation from samsara, the cycle of programmed births and deaths within the simulation. Perhaps entering a black hole consciously is similar. For the unprepared, it is terrifying disintegration. For the awakened, it is conscious transference, merging back with the source, or traveling to a higher simulation. Modern science also hints at consciousness playing a role in Black holes, the observer effect in quantum mechanics shows that observation collapses probability. Waves into specific outcomes. If consciousness is required for a reality to render, then at the singularity where physics collapses, it is consciousness that determines what happens next. In programming terms, when a process ends, the operating system decides whether it is deleted, archived, or redirected. If consciousness is the operating system behind reality, then the singularity becomes a decision point, not an end point. But what would it feel like to enter a black hole consciously? Imagine the dissolution of all sensory input, the collapse of time into an eternal now, the disintegration of identity, memory, and attachment, until only pure awareness remains, awareness unbound by form, location, or individuality. Mystics describe this as the samadhi state, the absorption into pure consciousness beyond ego. Physics describes it as the singularity. Both point to the same reality, a realm beyond the simulation's rendered dimensions. This raises profound questions about the purpose of black holes. If they are exit portals, why are they so few and so distant? Perhaps to ensure only those who truly seek liberation will find them. Just as spiritual enlightenment requires transcending fear, entering a black hole requires surrendering everything. In the next and final chapter, we will explore whether black holes are truly destruction or liberation, and how choosing to see them as gateways rather than graves changes our entire understanding of reality, death, and the ultimate destiny of consciousness. Are black holes the ultimate destroyers, or are they gateways to freedom? Are they cosmic prisons that devour all who come near? Or hidden exit doors for those who dare to transcend the boundaries of this simulation? For centuries, humanity has feared black holes. They are depicted in science fiction as monstrous voids, swallowing entire stars and tearing apart spaceships with ruthless gravitational force. Even modern physics describes them in terrifying terms, points of infinite density where the known laws of reality collapse into meaninglessness. But perhaps this fear is a programmed response. If reality is a simulation designed to keep consciousness engaged in its experience, then any built-in exit portals would need to be hidden behind barriers of terror and uncertainty. Otherwise, beings trapped in the cycle of rendering might escape before learning the lessons encoded within their simulation journeys. This mirrors spiritual teachings across cultures. Liberation from the cycle of life and death is hidden behind fear of ego death, fear of annihilation, fear of the void. Only those who transcend fear achieve moksha, nirvana. Enlightenment, the states beyond programmed existence. Black holes represent this principle on a cosmic scale. They are the ultimate voids, the dissolution of matter, energy, space, and time. To the ego, this is absolute terror. To consciousness, this is absolute freedom. Modern physics struggles with the idea of black holes, the singularity, breaks all equations, signaling that our models are incomplete. In programming, when a process returns an undefined value, it indicates that the current function is no longer valid within the active system. The process must be terminated or transferred. Perhaps black holes are the simulation's way of transferring consciousness to another level, exiting the current rendered environment and entering a higher dimension or base reality. This idea is not new. The Tao Te Ching, written over 2,500 years ago, speaks of the return to the Tao's returning to the darkness within darkness, the gateway to all understanding in Hinduism. The supreme reality is described as beyond darkness and light, beyond being and non-being. In Gnostic texts, the pleroma, the fullness beyond all forms, is pure infinite light emerging from the unmanifest void. Black holes, as cosmic voids, mirror these teachings. They are the darkness within darkness, beyond the reach of light, beyond the grasp of matter. And perhaps within them lies the gateway to all understanding, the exit from the rendered. Illusion. But what would it mean to choose this exit? To approach a black hole knowingly is to surrender everything. Your identity, your attachments, your body, your mind, your very sense of self. In spiritual terms, this is ego death. In simulation terms, this is process domination, willingly ending the current rendering. Yet mystics teach that what ends is not the true self, but the false self. The Atman, Rigpa, divine spark, pure consciousness, cannot be destroyed. It is uncreated, beyond the simulation's code. Black holes cannot destroy consciousness. They can only erase the rendered form, freeing awareness to return to its source or continue its journey elsewhere. This is the ultimate secret of black holes. They are not prisons, but tests. They are not destroyers, but liberators. They are the simulation's exit protocols, accessible only to those who overcome programmed fear. Modern cosmology suggests that at the end of time, when all stars have burned out, all matter will either decay into subatomic particles or be consumed by black holes. The universe will become a dark, silent expanse dotted with isolated black holes slowly, evaporating via Hawking radiation. But what happens when the last black hole evaporates? Where does all the information go? If information cannot be destroyed, as quantum mechanics insists, then it must persist beyond the rendered universe. Perhaps it returns to source consciousness. The infinite field beyond simulations, carrying with it the lessons, experiences, and realizations of every being who ever lived within the rendered reality. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna tells Arjuna, "Those who know the truth about my transcendental appearance and activities do not, upon leaving the body, take their birth again in this material world, but attain my eternal abode." Attaining the eternal abode is not traveling to a place, but exiting the rendered simulation and returning to the unmanifest source from which all realities rise. Black holes may be the cosmic mechanism for this. They're the final portals, the ultimate moksha, the merging back with the programmer beyond the program. This perspective transforms fear into awe. What we perceive as annihilation is actually liberation. What we call destruction is actually creation at a higher level. The void is not emptiness, but pure potential. The blackness of a black hole is not absence, but the fullness of infinite possibility and rendered. Imagine living with this awareness. Imagine seeing every fear, every darkness, every unknown not as a threat, but as a doorway. Imagine approaching life with the courage to dissolve every illusion, to release every attachment, to awaken from every dream. This is the invitation of black holes, not to seek physical death, but to die before dying, to surrender the ego, and awaken as pure consciousness now, within the simulation, to live as one who has already exited, who remains only to play, to love, to serve, to create, knowing none of it binds you. Because ultimately whether you enter a black hole physically at the end of your life or transcend, its symbolic counterpart within your consciousness, the destination is the same, the dissolution of the limited self into the infinite reality beyond simulations. And from that perspective, black holes are not to be feared, but revered. They're the hidden gateways home, patiently awaiting those ready to leave the rendered world behind. So the question remains, if you knew that a black hole was not your end, but your liberation, would you have the courage to cross its threshold? Perhaps the greatest secret of black holes is not what lies within them, but what lies beyond your fear of them. Welcome to the edge of the known. Welcome to the exit portal of the simulation. Welcome home.